Hi everybody, it's Sunday night and it's the usual time that I come on and do my live. Anyways, it's funny because the back makes it look like I'm in jail, but it's the back of my car. Anyways, we have the opportunity to be able to go to Disneyland, so I'm super excited because I get to do it with my family, and boy, they have tried my patience in many different ways. My little kids driving in a car for over 13 hours in California traffic, but it's been amazing. And I wanted to come on here and just kind of talk about the things that I've learned about family and how we need to be careful, well, I need to be careful not to take them for granted, because a couple years ago, I will try doing this without crying. A couple years ago, hi Melissa. A couple years ago, I had a very unexpected thing happen. Actually, I would say it's 3 years. On the 23rd, it will mark 3 years for me. But I had a very unexpected thing happen where my very, very, very best friend, my sister, ended up passing away unexpectedly. And she was only 40 years old, and it was super, super hard because she was my best friend. I could tell her about anything. You know, she lived in Colorado, so we lived kind of far from each other, but we talked all day long, every single day. And because she was only 40 years old, she had 4 kids, and I remember our conversations were always talking about how she would always be there for me and would listen to, you know, the struggles and my hard things that I was going through, and so I just kind of counted on that. And I think sometimes I took it for granted, just thinking with her being so young, she's always going to be there, and I wouldn't have to worry about, you know, if we got in an argument or something was wrong between the two of us, I know she would be around. Well, she would say sometimes that, you know, Lisa, when I pass away, you're going to take care of my kids. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, whatever. Well, one day, the month of October, I get a phone call from my dad saying that, you know, she was feeling sick and she wasn't doing too good and she was in the hospital. And it was kind of shocking because I'm like, well, what in the world is going on? And she just gone in there. She had pneumonia and she was put in ICU. Then the very next day, they downgraded her to doing just fine, took her out of ICU, super, super excited. But I kept having this really strong feeling she was gonna pass away. And I kept thinking, no, that's just me and my anxiety and my fear at the time. And so I didn't let myself be too concerned or worried about it. Well, it kept coming to me stronger and stronger and stronger. I asked my parents, well, what do you think we should do? And they just said to me, you know, we don't need to go down there, everything's gonna be fine. So then the very next day, my parents show up on my doorstep, and both of them have tears in their eyes and they look very serious. And they look up at me and they say, Lisa, we need to let you know that your sister Tiffany has passed away. And I remember running into the bathroom and just throwing up. I was so upset, and it took me months and months and months before I could get to the point where I was okay. I could get out of bed. I was fine. And then after that, every other week, every few weeks, we continued losing really close people in our lives, family members, and my best friends. And so then the elderly lady that I used to take care of for 11 years, her and I became so close. I was her only family. She ended up getting really sick and passing away unexpectedly. And so that was a big blow. Then a couple months later, my very, very best friend's mom, that was like a mom to me, ended up passing away. So in 13 months, actually no, 11 months, we lost 13 people. And so from these experiences, I've learned that we got to be careful not to take people for granted, because we never know when they're going to pass away. We never know when they're going to go. We got to be careful that our very last words with them isn't going to be something negative or that we're upset with them, because it could be the very last thing. So as we plan this trip for our family, it's been planned since February. I feel very blessed. My company that I'm working for made it to where it's possible to be able to pay for this trip for my family, and so we were super excited because our family isn't used to being able to take vacations like this frequent this year. And so we had it all planned it with my parents and everything. We ride in the same car, we all squished. And as trying as it would get sometimes today, where some of us would get on each other's nerves and stuff, I just reminded myself that you never know, this might be our very last trip together, because my parents are almost 70 years old, and you just don't know what's going to happen. You've got to cherish and take every single moment and minute that you have with family as your last, seriously, because at my age, I'm only 32 years old, I've lost more people than I can count, and usually that doesn't happen, but I think this day and age, the more frequent, more common and popular it's going to become. I also learned as we were, sitting just kind of hanging out at the motel today, that my grandpa, he's the only grandparent or grandpa that I've known. Him and my grandma, his wife, are my very closest. I mean, we have a very close connection. I have a lot of memories when I was little and older. Luckily, we've been able to visit them a lot this year because they live in St. George. But one of the really neat things is my grandpa was in the war, and he was in Pearl Harbor, and he saw a lot of gruesome, traumatic things. And for the longest time, he wasn't able to talk about these type of things, and it was a big struggle for him and everything. And the older he's gotten, he's done pretty good with his health and everything. But this trip down here, we kind of got information that it might be his last. And a lot of family members are coming down here to visit, kind of possibly saying their goodbyes. And his kids and stuff have paid him a visit. My uncle, my cousin's dad ended up passing away unexpectedly this week, and that was pretty hard because he was a good person. And so then finding out about Grandpa, it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, let's not go through this again. But going through this trip has been so memorable so far, and we're just at the beginning of it. We have so many memories and so many things that, when I think about getting frustrated or angry or losing my temper, I think about how precious time is with our family and our loved ones, and we can't take it for granted anymore. So being able to watch this Pearl Harbor on TV just kind of made me a little bit teary-eyed, because I was thinking in my mind how grateful I am to be able to know my grandpa, who's in his 90s, and that he's still alive, and he's able to tell us amazing stories and kind of give us an outline of what it was like for him as a kid, and how different it is nowadays from when he was a kid, and the stuff that he loves. And it's just so special. I never used to care about these things when I was like 14 or 15. It used to bore me to death watching the DVDs that the family would make, or hearing about the stories that they would talk about. But looking at how quickly family is passing away and not here on this earth has just made it more to where I want to listen and hear about every little thing. I beg my dad to tell me stories, even though, he's still young. I just picture it in my mind that might be their last time. I look at my kids a little bit differently, and I think, you know what? They're growing up so quickly. I'm losing out time with them being little ones, that whatever we do, or, being together, we make it super special and fun. And so, kind of think about that when you think about sometimes how family reunions can be boring, or you don't want to spend the time doing this, that, or the other. Remember, it might be your very last time seeing them. So as we go through our trip here, I'm hoping and thinking that when we pass through St. George to go home again, that I'll be able to at least see him one last time and that cute little smile of him looking up at me and telling me how proud he is of me, and how happy he is, and how he's ready to go, he's ready to pass, and how hard it is on my grandma to be able to not have him around and know that it's near and it's close and she'll be the one left behind by herself. But that, you know, I believe that we get to see him again, and I'm so grateful for my family. I'm grateful for a husband that I have that, you know, takes care of our kids. And just figured I'd come on here and just express my gratitude of just having the life that I've had. I mean, I've had a really rough life, but it's what you make out of it, and it's whether it's family in your life or it's not, you make it count. And even if friends, you consider friends as your family, that's special too. And you don't take life for granted anymore, because we're so lucky to be alive and to have bodies to use and to be able to have talents and gifts that we can have available to us to be something and successful and happy. So anyways, just coming on here and talking about it and how grateful I am and how exciting and fun that this trip has been for our family.